Hi, everybody. Good evening. My name is Dr. Beth Spencer. I'm the Director of Undergraduate Advising and Transition at Georgia Tech, and I'm really excited to be here with my colleague, Crystal Elster in the Registrar's Office to do this general advising session for transfer students. We're actually going to start off by going over a lot of information about transfer credit, and then we'll transfer over into more general information about advising. So at this time, I'm going to turn this over to Crystal.
Thank you, Beth. And like Beth said, we're excited to be here and to talk about transfer credit and talk about advising and other things like that. I'm going to start off by talking about course transferability, and then we'll move into what you do next when you have an admission offer, and then Beth will kind of cover some of that initial advising and facet when you get to Georgia Tech. So if you want to do next slide for us. So the number one question that we get in the registrar's office, and I think GT admissions gets too for our first year students and our transfer and pathway students, is how can I see how my courses will transfer to Georgia Tech? And there is a great tool that we have on our website where you can go to the transfer equivalency table and you can search. You can search if your institution is in the US or if it is outside the United States, search by state, and then you can search for the college that you attended. I can go to the next slide. So from there, what you're going to do is you will search for the course. You can also search for every course that's in that catalog if you wanted to select all. Then you're going to pick the term. I always encourage students to scroll down to the bottom and click all terms so that you can view every course and how it's transferred by term. If you'll hit next. And then you will get this page right here that will show you how the course is transferred to Georgia Tech. You'll see that your transfer institution, you'll see their course number, and then on the right side, you'll see the Georgia Tech course number and how it transfers. Be mindful of those terms because when I searched to view all terms. So you want to see if you took a course in 2020, you want to make sure that you see that term and it says end of term, end of time. And that will tell you how the course will transfer from the term that you took it. If you can go ahead and go to the next slide. I want to talk about some of those details here, and this is probably the number 2 question that we get from transfer students is, what does it mean if I see ET no GT? It means no Georgia Tech credit. If you'll hit next, LaShawn. A little bit slow, but we highlighted it. So we have ET no GT and ET department. Go ahead and hit next twice. ET department means that the department has to review every section of this course. There's no exceptions to it. Once you're admitted, you will get information in your admission offer that will tell you what you need to do next so that this course can be evaluated. Georgia Tech is a little bit unique. So everything that you see on this table right here, the faculty have personally reviewed a syllabus and told us how that course is going to count and transfer to Georgia Tech. And they are very detailed and they want all of the information when they review these courses. So like I said, if you see ET department, it means the department will have to review that syllabus once you are admitted to Georgia Tech. If you see ET no GT, that means that there's no GT credit awarded and there are no exceptions to that. The department is not going to review the course again. It is a non-transferable course to Georgia Tech. And we'll go over in a couple slides a little bit later about reviewing courses and having them reviewed in more detail by GT faculty. So if you want to go ahead and hit next slide, LaShawn. Another popular question that we get is, are my online courses accepted? The best place that you can go to check that is our transfer credit policy link. If you took an online course during the pandemic, so from 2020 to current, your institution that you're at is still operating in an online capacity, we are going to accept those courses. So don't panic about that. The faculty at Georgia Tech are reviewing this policy on how we'll move forward from the spring 22 term. And as soon as we have updated information, it will be on the transfer credit policy webpage. Another question. What do I do if my college is not listed on the transfer equivalency site? And that's a great question. Your admission counselor is going to guide you through that, and it's going to work with you on the front end. And they'll also be working with the registrar's office at the same time, but you'll want to reach out to your admission counselor to ask them on how to proceed and maybe what information or documentation that they need at the time that you're admitted. If you want to go ahead, or applying for admission. Go ahead, next slide. So, congratulations, you have an admission offer to Georgia Tech. So as soon as you are admitted, the registrar's office is going to get started on evaluating your transfer credit. I always like to tell students, please give us 30 days to get your courses reviewed and get them updated. You'll get information in your admission letter on where to look, but you'll want to check your Oscar account in DegreeWorks, and you'll be able to see how your course is transferred. In your admission offer, if you are asked, if you have a request to submit course syllabi, it means that your courses need to be reviewed during your admission process and while we're evaluating your credit. So we have a website. As I said, your admission offer will give you all of this information on where to go. You will upload a syllabus to this webpage, and at that time we will work with the departments and faculty at Georgia Tech to have your course reviewed and have it updated before you start classes in the spring or summer or fall for the term that you start. You want to go ahead into the next slide, LaShawn. That transfer credit review process, I always like to give a little bit of an overview for students. As I mentioned before, when you get that admission offer, it's going to tell you where you need to go and what you need to submit. We need to have a syllabus from the course that you took. It's very important. The faculty want to see the course from that term. And there's oftentimes that there are classes that are taught different terms. For example, with CS, one term something could be taught in Python, and then the next term it could have been taught in a different language. So the departments need that information on the syllabus, and that's why it's very important they get the syllabi from the term that you took the course when you're submitting it. That syllabus, it has to have the faculty member that taught, the instructor's name, contact information, the book, textbook, any materials that were used, and it has to have a week-by-week calendar that shows the topics that are covered every week. If that information is not included when you submit your syllabus or your course for review, then we're unable to send that to the department. And we have to come back to the student and ask for more information, which takes more time for both of us. And it delays the process of getting your course equivalency. So once you have everything perfect, we submit it to the department. It does take about 2 to 6 weeks for that process to go full cycle. It just depends on the department and how many courses they're receiving at the time to get reviewed. So there's a chance for a lot of transfer students, you could see your initial transfer evaluation done, and you could still see some of those courses with the equivalency that says ET department, meaning it's still in that review process. Once the faculty have your course reviewed, you'll get an automated email that tells you that it's been updated, and will update your transfer evaluation, and you should be able to see those changes in Oscar and DegreeWorks within 24 hours of receiving that email. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next slide. So the next slide, I'm going to go over to Dr. Spencer to talk about advising, but I wanted to take just a quick break. I know I kind of talked pretty fast here, but I wanted to take a quick break to see if there were any popular questions or anything I could answer about transfer credit.
So I see a question coming in, like if somebody sees like credit for math, say 2.5x2, what does that actually mean as opposed to one of the courses that they normally would see without an X in it?
Yep, that's a great question. If you see something with the X in it, it means that likely the course was taught for 3 hours at your transfer institution, and the Georgia Tech requirement is 4 hours. So there's a part of that course where the content was missing from it. So it's not that you're not receiving credit, you're receiving credit for that. Most of the time this happens with our math courses. And the most important thing to do when you see that is when you meet with your advisor the first time is to talk about, hey, do I need another math course? Do I need another math hour? Could an engineering course I took or another science course meet that requirement. And your advisor is going to be the best person that can guide you through where you're going to complete the additional hour you may need.
I think another good question might be this one, like how would I know if a class that is not listed on the online course transfer equivalency website will have a transfer credit eligibility such as BME 1000? Does that make sense?
Okay. Yep. So BME 1000, they don't really give transfer credit for. That's going to be something you'll work with your advisor. But if you don't see the course there, it doesn't mean that it won't transfer to Georgia Tech. It just means we haven't seen it before. It's never transferred before, and we need to have the syllabus reviewed by the department. So like I said, when you're admitted, that is a great question for your admissions counselor when you're in the admissions process on what you'll do. But once you receive the official offer, you'll have additional information in your letter on where you need to submit the course for review and that process. And like I said in the previous slide, I think sometimes that review process can take 2 to 6 weeks by the department for them to review it and get us the equivalency. And if it is a course that the department says, hey, for every student in the future that comes to us from Georgia State that takes CS 2210, this is just a random course or example, we can award credit. We'll put it out there on that equivalency table so future students can see that.
And then another good one is, what's an Oscar account?
All right, so that's another thing. Once you're admitted, you will get access to your Oscar account. This is where you will register for classes. You'll be able to submit financial aid information. You'll be able to put your add permanent address in there. That'll be your main account. It'll be like if you've attended another University System of Georgia school or even out of state, it's your main place for your student record. Okay, I see, came to the questions. I see a question about AP credit and test credit. I like to cover that. If your transfer institution, if you were awarded AP credit, IB credit from there, and it is published on your transcript, so that means your transcript says that you were awarded English 1101 or math, calculus 1. If it's on that transcript, Georgia Tech will honor that, and we will give you credit for that, for those courses. So I'm scrolling through, and I think this is more of an admission side question, but I'll grab it. 30 credits, do they have to all be transferable to Georgia Tech? Yes, it is 30 transfer credits that you have to have. And I'll grab a syllabus question. You do not have to have a syllabus for every course unless none of the courses are on the equivalency table. You would only need a syllabus for those courses that are not already listed on the equivalency table. And you should get more information when you have your admission offer. You'll have more information in that package of which courses you need to submit for review. Did you see any others, Dr. Spencer?
Let's see, it's hard. It's just so y'all out there know, it's hard to keep up with all of these. One of the questions is like, what if my session isn't listed? Somebody wants to take a course at someplace on quarters and they have a winter session or something like that, and that isn't something on our tables. Does that mean that it's just a no-go, or how would they handle that?
So not really a no-go. So the sessions, when you're searching by term, that's why I always tell students to search by every equivalency term, because a lot of schools, and Georgia Tech included, we offer mini sessions, and other schools have mini mesters in December. We will still accept those courses, even if they're not currently listed. They just may need to go through that review process.
I think those are the main questions. That there's some admission questions more about 30 versus 60 credits, etc. But I think these are the main questions that have come in for us.
Yeah, and these are great questions, and I think we'll have a little bit of time at the end if they're still coming where we can look through some more and answer some more popular ones.
Yeah. Okay, so should I start talking about advising now?
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to be fairly general about advising because Georgia Tech does have an extremely decentralized advising model. I know that may sound kind of technical, but what that means is all of our academic advising is done within a student's major. So we do have a lot of other types of advisors on campus, and I'm going to touch on those because hopefully, you know, when you transfer to Georgia Tech, you'll use all of these great resources. But your academic advisor would be in your major. So if you come in, if you're admitted into industrial and systems engineering, you have an advisor in ISYE. And there's actually a team of advisors. And in that case, you will have an assigned advisor based on your last name. If you're in, say, history and sociology, there's just one advisor. So that advisor works with all the students. But their advisors are always in your actual major. And they specialize in the major, and that's a really good thing. They know the curriculum very, very well. We also have, though, advisors for our minors. We have over 60 minors on campus. We have new minors approved every year. So it's not something that's always worth looking at and reviewing. You can talk about your interest in a minor with your academic advisor, but you can also meet with go directly to the minor advisors who, often are in a very different unit than your major advisor. We have advisors who work with our certificates. We have so many certificates. Those are a little shorter to do than, say, a minor. They're very attractive to people. We also have an advisor for students who are interested in pre-law, which isn't a major here, but something you can do with any academic interest. PGPP stands for pre-graduate and pre-professional advising. It's a very popular office on our campus, and that's where our advisors for pre-health, for students pre-graduate would be somebody who can work with you. You're thinking about applying to graduate school and you want help with that search and help writing your statements, etc. We have an advisor for pre-teaching. Georgia Tech does not have a college of education or any K-12 certification programs, but we do have an advisor who can help students who want to transfer into K-12 teaching after graduating from Georgia Tech. We also have an advisor in that office who can work with you if you're interested in applying for prestigious fellowships, things like, say, the Rhodes or the Boren, etc. We also have advisors for study abroad. I mean, so many of our students at Georgia Tech get a global experience. It's something that as a transfer student, if you want to do that, you need to plan carefully. So we would recommend you connect with a study abroad advisor during your first semester at Tech. And in addition to studying abroad, you can also work abroad or even do research abroad at Georgia Tech. And there's advisors who can help you plan for that too. And then everyone has a career advisor. After you are admitted and you register for courses and start your first semester, during that first week, you can actually activate what we call your Career Buzz account. And everything's Buzz at Georgia Tech because of our mascot. And you can find your assigned career advisor in the Career Center there. But then many of our colleges and schools also have career advisors in their own units. So for example, if you are a business major in the Scheller College of Business, you'll have career advisors who specialize in that field too. So you've got multiple people you can work with. The College of Computing has got their own career advisors. Some of our engineering people do too. We also have these new jobs on campus called career educators, and every college has or soon will, almost every college will have one or two of those who really can work with you within your college with interests really connected to your major. So there's lots and lots of support. It can sometimes feel a little overwhelming with so many different types of advisors. A great place to always start is with your academic advisor. For an overview on all of these different people, you can, at any time, you don't have to be a student here already, you can kind of poke around on our advising.govtech.edu website, which is listed here. It's our general website. Your advising office for your major will have much more detailed information on your school or college's website. So for example, if you're coming in as a mechanical engineering major, there's a whole advising website for that on the mechanical engineering site, but you can get to that from this advising.godtech.edu site. So it's a good sort of, I guess, the center of the spokes and for the wheel to get you to other sites. And we'll look at a little more detail on this site a little bit later. So we can change the slide. Yeah. So this sometimes frustrates students, and I already saw one question come in a minute ago when I was looking at the Q&A. Lots of times students want to connect who are thinking about transferring to tech either soon or maybe later in the future. They often want to connect with an academic advisor here at Tech now to get information on what classes they should take at their current institution. And I want to tell you that that's really not the approach you want to take, because almost all of the advisors at Georgia Tech are simply going to refer you back to the admission website and back to the transfer equivalency tables that Ms. Elster has already gone over. They really are, they're not usually going to be able to create appointments for you or go into details with you as somebody who's not already a student here on how to plan to transfer to Georgia Tech. Now, some of our colleges and majors have specific outreach programs for prospective transfer students, and so I recommend you connect with those. But they're usually going to simply refer you back to these tables or tell you like, hey, that's something we'll tackle later on once you're actually admitted. Our advisors, as a rule, also are really not, they don't want to misadvise you, so they're not going to try to evaluate courses that are not on the tables, etc., you know, while you're going through the process, because they wouldn't want to misspeak. So you've got all the information you need in terms of how do you plan and just know how this works from the information Ms. Elster has given you. So go ahead for the next slide. But we don't leave you in the cold or in the dark all the way until your registration day, which actually occurs when you sign up for FACET. That's our new student orientation. Our advising really begins with FACET. So once you've been admitted to Georgia Tech and you decide that you want to come to Georgia Tech, you will want to register for FACET, and you will get many emails from many friendly and excited people at Georgia Tech saying, hey, don't forget, register for FACET. I know sometimes transfer students think, oh, I'm a transfer student. I've already gone through orientation. I really don't need to do this, but I would like to discourage you from thinking that way. Every campus is different. You will learn really helpful things if you come through FACET, and you'll have access to a lot of resources faster and sooner. So that's something I cannot stress enough. One of the things that we've really started doing since the pandemic started is we do a lot of flipped advising now. So rather than just waiting until students show up at FACET, it's like, oh, hi, we're your advisors. We're going to now give you information so you can register in a couple of hours. Most of our units now do a lot of flipped advising. So after you signed up for FACET, it might be just a few days before FACET. It might be maybe a few weeks before FACET, kind of depending on what semester you're starting and just how your academic advising team and your major actually works. And they're all a little different. They will reach out to you and they will connect you with your Canvas course. That's our online course management system. A lot of you are probably familiar with Canvas on other campuses, but they will actually like have you sign up or connect with an advising site that actually has modules that you'll work through so that you can do you can get the overview and a lot of just the details, the nuts and bolts, the information you need about your curriculum, what you need to know to register, etc. But then many of the advisors will also be asking you questions and reaching out to you after you've registered for FACET to get a better idea of what credits are you bringing in, what classes are you still taking, you know, do you have questions, etc. And they're working to actually then give you your individualized plans. Some of them will get those to you before the FACET day. Some of them will be at FACET, but they are working on that kind of individualized information. So you definitely want to respond to emails and do the modules that your advisors ask you to complete. Some of our units will then invite you, it's not required, but will invite you to make in this case it's usually a virtual appointment maybe before FACET after you've actually completed some of this sort of onboarding information. And if so, if you want to do that, that's really helpful. But even if they don't do that, or even if you don't need that, you will definitely have time with your advising office and with other people in your college and school when you come to FACET on that day. You can go ahead, yeah. So what advisors are usually doing as students or as our new transfer students are coming in, it's just really helping to give you some recommendations and help you with planning for your first semester. That's the goal for orientation. So they usually are not going to map out like the rest of your curriculum, all of your time here. They're usually just getting you started on your first semester. Class registration your first registration will occur on the afternoon of your FACET day. I don't think we actually have the schedule yet for spring, but if you're coming in the spring, that's when you'll do it. It'll be right before classes begin. I do want to remind students that if you don't sign up for FACET, you won't have a time ticket. That's the window when you can first begin to register assigned to you until after that first FACET registration for new transfer students is over. Because if you register for FACET, you get a slight you get to go ahead a little bit earlier. And one of the other things that's good about attending FACET is during the registration period, not only our advisors are available, but also Crystal and others, the team from the registrar's office are there to actually help with questions, any last minute transfer equivalency issues, etc. And the FACET staff, including our FACET leaders, they actually sit with you and help make sure that you got registered. Even if you know how to use the registration system, sometimes it's just helpful to have somebody who's on campus kind of with any secrets or day of information, etc. So again, I really think that's a helpful thing to do. If you're starting in the spring, then after your initial day of registration on your FACET day, you'll also be able to register throughout phase 2. Registration, which is on some campuses you might call it drop ad. I still think of it as that from my days as an undergrad long ago, and that will run all the way through January 14th this semester. You can go ahead. But one thing you can do, so you may think like, well, there's really nothing I can do. I can't talk to an advisor right now other than looking at transfer equivalency tables. How is this helpful? Of course it is, but one thing you can do and you should do as you're planning to come to Tech is to become familiar with the curriculum in your intended major. And it's really important to keep in mind that most of our majors at Tech are STEM fields, science, technology, engineering, and math, and that many of these have complex prerequisite chains. So one of the things that you do want to get to know, we tell first year students this, we tell transfer students this, and we remind students throughout is that you need to know not only like what classes do you have to take in order to get your degree, but what order do they have to be taken in. Because in many of our majors, that is incredibly structured. COD stands for College of Design. Those majors also have very specific studios that you have to do in a very particular order, and other classes go with them. So again, you have to really know your curriculum well. Working with your advisor will help, but you can begin to explore that ahead of time. Our College of Business and our Ivan Allen, those are our liberal arts majors, they tend to have a lot more flexibility, but even so, you want to know, are there certain things that you have to take at a particular time so that you can plan? You can begin to explore this. You can either find it on your own if you like to poke around on the various majors websites, but you can also get to it on our general and I don't know why I made it a link here because you can't see it, but on our general advising.godtech.edu website. So if we go to the next slide, you can actually, you can, so you can see that. So if you go to advising.godtech.edu, you can then actually see sample and suggested four-year plans for all and academic maps for our different majors. They come in many different formats. I think a couple of people have changed their websites recently, so we need to fix a couple of links, but we'll do that. If we go to the next slide, you can actually see how that would look. So if you're on our homepage, advising.godtech.edu, you can see, I think that Find Your Advisor link on the side is helpful. You wouldn't be able to make an appointment with them right now, but you can actually see who the advisors are. And once you become a student, you can click that and it'll log you into our advisor link and scheduling system, and you can make appointments then. As an incoming transfer student, you probably won't be able to do that until after you register for FACET and closer to the beginning of your start, but once you get close to FACET, you can do that. But then up there in the up in the headline where it says majors and minors, that's a really, I can't even see it. Yes, majors and minors, that's a really helpful link to actually get to the slide that you just saw a second. You can actually look at the curriculum and the suggested plans for all of our different majors. And I've made a couple of slides of just a couple of examples to see how you'll see the information. So we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so that's what it would look like. You can actually see, information for each major. It's like who the advisors are, how do they like to work with you, etc. Information on our certificates and minors. We have an advisor who can really help you work on those. And then the academic plans. There is information about change of major. I don't like to go into detail with that with transfer students because Georgia Tech really does assume that the major into which you are offered admission is the major you are going to stick with and graduate from. But I will acknowledge that sometimes when students get here as transfer students, they realize like, wow, this major wasn't what I thought it would be, or wow, I just found something I am so much more excited about. So sometimes transfer students do make a change, but if so, that's something you want to do really carefully because it may add significant time to your degree path. And as a transfer student, you always have to be really mindful of your financial aid eligibility. But if you are interested or changing a major, maybe adding a second major or adding minors and certificates to make the major you have the experience you want, we do have an advisor who can help you with that, and there's information under that link. You can go to the next slide. So this is just an example of some of the ways Georgia Tech will present the information about your curriculum to you. So if you're a visual learner, this is, you can't see the whole slide, but this is how computer engineering is actually mapping out the prerequisite and co-requisite chains. You can see these red arrows leading to class, and in the end, they all seem to come together into one class. So that's one way that departments will show you, like, this is how you understand the order in which you must take classes, the things you can't drop, the things you really got to be successful in. And let's move another slide. This is a different way of looking at it. A lot of the engineering majors make charts like this, and if you actually go to the page, this is for mechanical engineering, you can actually read, there's information about prereqs and how options, etc. But this is how you would move through your curriculum, and you can kind of see where you would jump in and how you move forward. And then we have another example on the next slide. This is public policy, which is, they're presenting it in a very different type of way. There aren't as many prerequisites in this, but this shows kind of telling you how you might move through the program. So you can poke around on our website and get a really good idea of how the curriculum works, and you can start getting excited about the things you would be able to do once you get here, and a better idea of how, exactly when you might finish. After FACET, so at FACET, you often are just really thinking about getting your transfer credit in, getting to know your advisor, learning a little bit about your department, and just getting that first semester's plan. I really recommend that after phase 2 registration is over, you've started into your fall, your first semester here, whether that be the spring, summer, or fall. Once kind of the dust settles after registration closes, that you actually reach out and make an appointment with your academic advisor. Just so you know, most of our academic units on campus do not require advising each semester. I know a lot of schools do. As a professional advisor, I think everybody should do it, but a lot of our advisors don't. They're more like, if you want to meet with me, great, but we're not going to require it unless you really need to. Or some of our units actually require it at very particular milestones, like when you take a particular course, everybody gets advised, or they check in with everybody in their second year and their fourth year, etc. But I always say reach out and meet with your advisors, especially as a new transfer student in your first semester. I think it's really important that you schedule an appointment with an advisor, not just a drop-in, so you can actually have their full attention for usually about a half an hour, and you talk to them about your goals for graduation. There's sort of a myth out there that it takes a really long time to graduate from Georgia Tech. I think when people are organized and they have goals in mind, they can usually graduate when they want to. So it's really important that you work on your academic mapping plans and you engage your advisor and you say, this is when I want to graduate, and these are all the things I want to do before I graduate, because then your advisor can really help you make that goal a reality. Let them know if you want to get a global experience, if you want to do research. Everybody needs to get work experience while they're at Tech. There's so many ways to do it, whether you do the formal co-oping or internships or other types of exploration. It's also a good time to maybe really go over your degree works in depth with your advisor and ask any questions about where things are falling, to kind of follow up on any transfer credit concerns, etc. And it's a really great time to ask your advisor lots of questions. So that's something I would encourage transfer students to do during their first semester. Not a requirement, but a suggestion. And that was all of the information I put together formally here. So now we have time to look at the Q&A, and it looks like a lot of stuff has come in. So take a pause here and see what we can answer.
Let's see. I see a good one, and Amanda Lynn did a great job answering it. How do double majors work at Georgia Tech? Amanda Lynn put the catalog policy with you have to have 36 additional hours that were not used towards your first degree. But I think Dr. Spencer will probably reiterate, talk to your advisor, your primary advisor, once you're admitted. Just like she said, talk about your plans, and they will absolutely get you in touch, because every school has a different process for how to declare a second major or how to change your major.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. Sometimes we end up with meeting with the student who's frustrated, who they feel like they read the catalog and they know what they needed to do that second major, but they didn't see that rule about the 36 hours and the facts, but you can't, there's only so much double dipping and not double dipping you can do. So we always tell students that, don't just say, I can read a catalog, I don't need to talk to anybody. If you want to do 2 majors at Georgia Tech, you want to work very carefully with the advisors in both of those majors on a regular basis to make sure that you are truly meeting all the requirements and that there are no surprises at the end of the road. And sometimes students realize that they don't really need to do both, but they want to do a minor instead, or they want to get other experiences, and that is just as worthwhile.
So there's a couple questions about when do I sign up for Facet, and is Facet a one-day event or multiple day event? So I can start that one off. So you'll get information about Facet once you've been admitted. After you have an admission offer, you'll receive some more emails and some things through your admissions portal that will talk about signing up for Facet. I can't recommend Facet enough. If you are a new student or a transfer student, you will register at Facet. If you do not sign up for a Facet, then you do get the very last registration time, which is after all Georgia Tech students have registered, after our new students have registered. So it is definitely beneficial for you to sign up for one of those sessions, to meet your advisor early, to go over degree works, to see how your transfer course is applied, if you need any prerequisites, to go through those degree plans. Very important to do that early and make sure you sign up for it.
Absolutely. One question that came in about Facet is, so if you're starting as a new transfer student next summer, when would Facet be? The schedule has not been published yet, but the way that has always worked is it's usually the Thursday or Friday right before summer classes start. So it would be a day in May, and at that point it's just a one-day program. We don't know how Facet will be next summer. We are not in the office that actually runs it or in the division that actually runs it. But in this past year, our orientations, all of our Facets have just been one-day sessions. I don't know if starting next summer, if we might get back to 2-day sessions again as an option, but usually transfer students usually do a one-day session. It's going to be interesting to see how we do Facet as we hopefully emerge from pandemic mode. Would that be fair to say?
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm looking at questions too. Let's see. So I did see the question about, and I did mention it, but I still would like to stress it again. Can transfer students go through and change their major? It really depends. As I said, that the thought behind transfer admission is that you're going to stick with the major into which you have been admitted. Whether or not you can change your major as a transfer student is really up to the school that you want. I'm going to have a sentence that ends like this is grammatically incorrect sentence. It depends on, it's up to the discretion of the school that you want to transfer into. Some majors don't tend to take many transfer students. Some majors would have a lot of hoops for a transfer student to jump through. Some of them might just say no. Others are very open to it, but it's not something that you should count on or really think that that's what you plan for. You really should try to apply for the major that you think you want to do. It's in your best interest, I would say. But there's help. Our exploratory advisor is available to help students who think, well, I think I do want to change. Maybe I want to explore this. And she's there to help you do that in a really good way. But you want to do it quickly and early and not just procrastinate on it.
So this one just popped up at the top, so I'll grab it. Can a transfer credit be used to satisfy one of 5 classes for a minor? Very specific, so I applaud you. Yes, you can use 3 credits of transfer coursework towards a minor, but 12 hours for majority of minors do have to be in residence, so you do have to take 12 hours at Georgia Tech to complete the minor. There are a couple exceptions, and those are with our modern languages, and they're more for if a student was to take a study abroad or something, along that lines. They in another country, they could use the language courses there to satisfy the minor, but the general rule is only 3 credits of transfer work towards a minor.
And I just saw a question, like, is there an advisor who can help students whose goal is to get a PhD? Absolutely. There's a couple of them. So one general advisor would be the pre-graduate advisor in our pre-graduate and pre-professional advising office, and they work with every student, every major across campus. They can definitely help you with the general planning and exploration for going to graduate school, whether at a master's or a PhD or something else. And they can also help you with your statements, etc. But then also there would be great faculty resources in your major.
I have one here that seems to be pretty popular. If another school gives you credit for an AP class for a grade of 3, but Georgia Tech requires will that course still transfer?
Yes, and I think I answered one of those in the
Okay.
question box. I'm not sure. I think there's a couple of them out there. So if the school you're currently attending, if they gave you credit for a score of a 3 for your AP and they gave you, your math, your English, political science, US history, whichever course it is, and you transfer to Georgia Tech, we will honor that as long as your transfer school puts that on the transcript. We have to have it on the transcript for us to be able to take it. We wouldn't be able to take honor just from a score report. So you want to make sure that your transfer school lists that. That's something you could ask the registrar's office at that school. If you are transferring from Georgia State, you definitely want to contact the registrar's office because they do require you to request a different type of transcript that lists your test credit. The test credit just doesn't come on the standard GSU transcript that you can request. You do have to reach out to the registrar directly and request a specific transfer credit. And I believe if you are a GSU student, I do believe that admissions gives you some of the detail on how to do that too up front.
I have another question here regarding transfer pathway. I have a 30 semester credit hour requirement. Do all 30 credits at my current institution need to be credit from Georgia Tech? That seems to be a pretty popular question in terms of what's inclusive of that 30 credit hours.
Hi, this is LaShawn Price from the admissions office. I'll jump in and answer that question if you don't mind.
Go for it.
I'm hearing some feedback. Can you guys hear me just fine? Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
There's a little echo, but not bad.
Okay, thank you. So pathway students, part of your pathway offer, so if you received an Atlanta Public School pathway, if you received first gen pathway, a conditional pathway, if you were denied first year admissions and offered one of those pathways, you must obtain 30 semester or 45 quarter credit hours post high school. So although you can use your AP, IB, A-level, dual enrollment courses to satisfy course requirements by major, for example, you can use those courses to satisfy English 1101, maybe satisfy a physics requirement or a math requirement. Those courses are not counted towards the minimum credit hour requirement. Part of the requirement is that you attend college for a full year at another institution and come into Georgia Tech as a sophomore. So I hope that made that answer a little clear for you.
I see one that I didn't see before. It's asking, what does ET Lab mean? So back to that transfer equivalency table. So you're looking at your courses, you're looking at your lab science courses that you took. Odds are you took your course that you're transferring, your school you're transferring from, the courses are separate. So you have a class and you have a lab. So you get 3 hours for the class, 3 hours at the lab. But at Georgia Tech, your class and lab are combined for one course for 4 hours. So if you see ET Lab on that course, that means we are awarding all 4 hours with the lab and to combine them. So we have to make sure that you've met the content for the class and the lab for us to order credit. So when you see ET Lab, it doesn't mean you're not getting credit. It means we are verifying when we award transfer credit that you took the class and the lab and it met the requirements at Georgia Tech so that we can give you all 4 hours. And a lot of times students see this with physics. So. Okay, here's a common one that I think we get pretty frequently. It's the first time I've seen it today, but we do get this question via email often. Can any English course satisfy the transfer English requirement? So some schools, it's a new trend. A lot of transfer schools are only offering one English course, and Georgia Tech requires two. So it's important that you look at the transfer table. Make sure that one of the courses that you're taking transfers as English 1101 or English 1102. You have one of those. What we'll talk to you about, and I think your admissions counselor will kind of give you some information too if you ask about this, is you need to take another course that is writing intensive. It can be a humanities course. I've seen some social sciences come through that have been awarded English, but they were very writing intensive. So when the student was admitted, they submitted the syllabus from the course and they submitted a writing sample. Most of the time that is a research paper that's 10 or more pages from that course, and our department will review it and will award another English course if it is comparable.
Beth, do you mind? There's a student asking about the website where you can find the 4-year planning. So could you give if a student was looking for one of those planning documents, how would a student search?
Yeah, so just go to www.advising.gatech.edu. And then, so that takes students to our advising and undergraduate transition website. And then they would choose the menu that goes across the top, majors and minors information. And when they click that, then there's 4 headings underneath that, and there's the information on the academic plans.
I just pulled that up. So I went to advising.gatech.edu. And then where did you say to go?
It's so tiny I can't see. It says like majors and minors.
Majors and minors, okay.
Yes. And then
it's advising information.
No, go to the bottom one.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah. I did find one broken link there today, so far, but we'll update them. But yeah, you can then start poking around there, and it takes you to the individuals' programs information that they've provided.
So once again, that's advising.gatech.edu. Under majors and minors, I was able to find the academic programs and suggested plans. Thank you.
Yeah. And if you take GT, I think it had it on the slide and I didn't talk about it, but we do encourage transfer students to consider taking GT 2000. That's our transfer seminar. It's just a 1 credit letter graded class. It's a great way to meet people and to actually do all the things that you kind of need to do during your first semester at Tech, like make sure you work with your advisor and you plan on how you're going to study abroad or do research, etc. But one of the assignments in that class is to actually map out your academic path from the day you come in as a transfer student until you graduate. So for transfer students, that's all very individualized, and it kind of gives you the structured way to think about, okay, so Tech has all these sort of standard 8-semester plans, but I'm a transfer student and none of them fit me perfectly. They actually don't fit any of our other students perfectly either. But and I see Crystal smiling because she often teaches these classes and she knows this too. But actually doing that assignment makes you sort of break things down, become familiar with your curriculum, and actually think about, what do I need to do? Do I understand this? What do these requirements mean? What if things don't seem to fit perfectly, etc. So that's a really good way to work on your academic path and really get to know your department well. And also, usually get a fairly, very manageable and enjoyable good grade.
Yeah, and these are some great questions today.
Yeah.
Really good ones. One of them that just popped up that I saw, where do I submit a transfer credit evaluation? I just want to stress, once you are admitted, you will get all of that information and you'll get the website to where your course needs to be uploaded so that you can submit your syllabi and any course document. But you will get that once you have an admission offer.
Crystal, can you briefly just discuss international transfer credit and how that works? I only had one question, but about that, but I think it's relevant.
Okay. So international transfer credit. So again, you'll want to work with the admissions office during that process. We do accept international credit, and you can go to the transfer credit site and see how we've accepted it from some institutions in the past. I will say that some departments for international credit, they want to review every course syllabi depending on the institution, and they want to see the evaluation, a credentials evaluation, so by another company, so where the transcript, the international transcript has been evaluated by a company, maybe Wes or Silney, and I think LaShawn's pulling up that information that has the links on the admissions webpage on where to go. We do accept the credits. Some of it is on the website. A lot of it is not on the website. Like I mentioned, the departments want to review each credit. So I encourage you to work with the admissions office through the process, and they'll be able to give you the information and what you will need. In some instances, we may take a look at the courses and review them and require documents a little bit earlier. But again, the admissions office would be the best place to start with that.
And from the admissions office, definitely going to be important that students are submitting their credit evaluation, their foreign credit evaluation, with a comprehensive course-by-course assessment and a grade point average evaluation. So once again, if you attend an institution abroad, okay, you're going to need the transcript along with a foreign credit evaluation that evaluates your coursework course by course, and then also provides a GPA evaluation, because your GPA may be very different than how we do it here in the US. And so that kind of helps us norm that information as we review your application. Of course, if you have any questions, please send, if you're an international student and you have questions about your international transcript, please send us an email, transfer@admission.gatech.edu. Once again, that's going to be transfer@admission.gatech.edu. So I'll jump in. I see a few admissions questions here. I want to apply for a CS major, but my lab sequence required is not fulfilled. I have 2 different science classes. Could I still apply? And does it make me less competitive to get accepted? Well, yes, for a CS major, and I'll talk from the from the admission standpoint, for a CS major, we want you to have the 2 consecutive courses. Yes, you are welcome to apply. We do use a holistic review, and we review all parts of the application as we make our decisions. We've added a new section to the application this year. It's called the additional information section. So if you would like to provide some additional information on why you do not have the sequential requirements, we'd be happy to review that during the application process. Does anyone have one last question before we wrap up? Definitely want to be mindful of everyone's time. Crystal or Beth, did you see one last question you wanted to answer? Quite a few admissions questions that I'll still try to answer before the end of the session.
I think there was one admission question that came up a couple of times. If a student is like I guess, how was the question phrased exactly? If you're planning to transfer the summer of 2023, so not this summer, but a year from now, do you have to have 30 hours or do you have to have 60 hours of credit?
So the minimum amount of credit hours for a regular transfer student is 30. So there are some programs like dual degree or the Regents Engineering Pathway programs, and those specific programs have higher credit hour requirements. But generally, if you're a pathway student or you are just a general transfer student, we'll be looking that your official transcript comes and it says that you've at least attempted and completed 30 semester credit hours or 45 quarter credit hours at your current institution. So, I definitely want to thank all of you for participating in tonight's event. Thank you, Crystal, Alistair from the Registrar's Office. Thank you, Beth Spencer from Advising. I hope that all the transfer students that were able to attend today really find this information helpful. If you have any additional questions, please send those questions to the admissions office. You can reach the transfer team at transfer@admission.gatech.edu. Once again, that is transfer@admission.gatech.edu, and that is directly to the transfer team. And we're happy to answer any additional questions that you have from this evening's program. Thank you all for participating this evening, and I hope you have a great night. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. Best wishes.
Thank you. Bye.